welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. I pressed my thumb to the scanner outside the central data archive for the third time, watching the red light blink mockingly before finally switching to green. The reinforced door slid open with its familiar pneumatic hiss, but something felt wrong. The scanner's display showed corrupted data fragments of biometric profiles flickering across the screen like digital snow, mixing thumbprints with retinal scans that didn't belong together. "System's been acting up since 0300, I muttered, stepping into the sterile corridor lined with backup power conduits. As head of security for Meridian Research Facility, I'd grown accustomed to minor glitches in our aging infrastructure, but this felt different. More deliberate. The facility housed 3 levels of classified research, each requiring progressively higher clearance. Level 1 contained standard pharmaceutical trials. Level 2 held advanced bioweapons research. Level 3, well, even I didn't have full access to what went on down there. My job was simple: keep unauthorized personnel out, authorized personnel safe, and the research secure. I pulled up the morning security log on my tablet, scrolling through access records from the past 6 hours. What I saw made my blood chill. Dr. Martinez, a Level 1 pharmaceutical researcher, had somehow gained entry to the Level 3 biological containment labs at 0347 hours. Jenkins from maintenance had accessed the executive boardroom at 0412. 3 separate janitors had been granted entry to the radiological materials vault between 0330 and 0445. None of these people had clearance for those areas. More importantly, our facility badges are programmed to prevent access outside assigned shift hours. Yet here they were, moving through the building like ghosts in the night. I quickened my pace toward the central security office, my boots echoing off the polished concrete floors. The morning shift was just beginning, researchers arriving with their coffee and tired eyes, maintenance crews starting their rounds. Normal. Everything looked normal except for the biometric scanners. Every scanner I passed showed the same corrupted display. Fragments of different biometric profiles cycling randomly across the screens. Sometimes I caught glimpses of my own thumbprint mixed with retinal scans from people I didn't recognize. The system wasn't just malfunctioning. It was mixing and matching access credentials like shuffling cards. I reached the security office and found controlled chaos. Ria, our IT specialist, sat hunched over 3 different computer terminals, her fingers flying across keyboards while streams of error messages cascaded down the screens. Empty coffee cups and energy drink cans littered her desk. She'd clearly been here for hours. "Ria, what's the situation?" She looked up, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion, a slight tremor in her hands from too much caffeine. The biometric authentication server started throwing critical errors around 0300. At first, I thought it was routine database corruption, but she gestured at the screens with a shaking hand. "Look at this. It's not random. There's a pattern." The primary monitor showed our building's access grid, a real-time map of every secured door and checkpoint. Normally, it displayed a steady pattern of green and red indicators showing a quiet night shift. Now it looked like a Christmas tree having a seizure. Doors that should be locked were showing green access grants. High-security checkpoints were cycling between locked and unlocked every few seconds, the status indicators flickering like a broken neon sign. "How is this possible?" I asked, though I was already dreading the answer. "The system isn't just corrupted," Ria said, pulling up another window filled with code. "It's actively reassigning access permissions. Watch this." She highlighted a specific researcher's profile. As I watched, the clearance levels flickered and changed. Level 1 became Level 3, then back to Level 2, then somehow showed clearance for areas that didn't even exist. A cold knot formed in my stomach as I thought about the implications. Who else knows about this? Just us for now. I've been trying to contain it, but every time I think I've isolated the problem, it spreads to another subsystem. The access control database is like, it's learning, adapting to my attempts to fix it. I grabbed my radio and switched to the security channel. All units, this is Quinlan. I need immediate reports on any unusual access activity. Check your sectors for personnel in unauthorized areas. The responses came back quickly, and each one confirmed my worst fears. Research assistants in executive suites, maintenance workers in classified labs, people who shouldn't have been in the building at all somehow badging in through entrances that should have rejected them. "Sir," came a voice over the radio Rodriguez from the Level 2 checkpoint. "I've got Dr. Kim from Biochemistry trying to enter the Weapons Research Wing. Her badge is showing full clearance, but I know for a fact she's only authorized for Level 1. Deny her entry and escort her back to her assigned area." I ordered, but even as I said it, I wondered if the door would obey. If the system was randomly granting access, were the manual overrides even working? Ria's fingers had stopped moving across the keyboard. She was staring at something on her screen, her face gone completely white. "What is it?" I asked. "The overnight access logs," she whispered. "Quinlan, someone used the system to enter Level 3 at 0147 hours. But look at this, the biometric signature shows as a perfect match for." She turned the screen toward me. "For you." I stared at my own access record. According to the system, I had used my thumbprint and retinal scan to enter the most secure area of the facility in the middle of the night. Except I had been home, asleep in my bed, 40 miles away. "That's impossible," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. "I wasn't here. I was." "I know," Ria said quickly. "I'm not suggesting you were." But the system logged a perfect biometric match. Not corrupted data, not a glitch, a perfect match for your biological markers. The radio crackled again. "Sir, we have a problem at the north entrance. The scanner just granted access to someone whose badge was reported stolen 3 months ago. The badge holder's been dead for 6 weeks. I felt the first real spike of fear. This wasn't just a system malfunction. Someone was using our security infrastructure against us, and they had capabilities I couldn't even begin to understand. I looked at the family photo on my desk, my sister and her kids, living just 20 miles from here. If whatever was contained in Level 3 got out, if the wrong research fell into the wrong hands, "Ria, I need you to start a complete system isolation protocol. Cut the biometric servers off from the main network." "Already tried," she said, her voice tight with frustration. "The system won't accept the isolation commands. It's like it's protecting itself." Through the security office window, I could see researchers moving through the hallways, badging through doors that should have stopped them, accessing areas they had no business entering. The morning shift was beginning in earnest, and none of them knew that our entire security infrastructure had turned against us. I made a decision that would haunt me for days to come. Instead of evacuating the building immediately, instead of pulling the fire alarm and getting everyone out, I chose to investigate. I chose to try to understand what we were dealing with before acting. "Lock down all external exits," I ordered over the radio. "Nobody leaves until we figure out what's happening." It was the first in a series of choices that would cost lives. But standing there, watching my own biometric signature appear in access logs for places I'd never been, I thought I was protecting everyone. I had no idea I was trapping us all inside with something that had learned to wear our identities like masks. The lockdown sirens hadn't even finished echoing through the facility when the first containment breach alarm triggered. Level 2. The biological research wing. I sprinted down the corridor toward the emergency, Ria close behind me clutching her tablet like a lifeline. The biometric scanners we passed continued their erratic light show. Red, green, amber, cycling through colors that shouldn't exist in our security protocols. One scanner near the cafeteria was displaying what looked like a child's handprint mixed with my retinal scan, a biological impossibility that made my skin crawl. "The breach is in Lab B7, Ria called out, checking her tablet as we ran. Automated containment sealed the room, but she paused, her face going pale as she read the screen. According to the logs, someone with Soren's biometric signature authorized the release of specimens from cold storage. "Soren's in Europe for the conference," I said, my lungs burning as we reached the level 2 checkpoint. The security door stood wide open, its scanner cycling through corrupted biometric profiles like a slot machine gone mad. "He's been gone for 3 days. The checkpoint guard, Martinez, looked up from his monitor with undisguised panic. "Sir, I've been trying to contact you. The system's been granting level 3 access to everyone who approaches." I watched a food service worker walk straight into the weapons research wing 20 minutes ago. Her badge should only work in the cafeteria. I grabbed Martinez by the shoulder, feeling the tremor in his hands from accumulated stress and too much caffeine. "Did you try manual override?" "Dead. All manual controls are non-responsive. The doors open and close when they want to, not when we tell them to." He pointed at his security console, where error messages scrolled past faster than human eyes could track. His breathing was shallow, the kind of hyperventilation that comes with watching familiar systems become completely unpredictable. And it gets worse. The biometric database is showing people who haven't worked here in years as having current access, including people who are dead, sir. Through the reinforced glass of Lab B7, I could see white containment suits moving around inside emergency response protocols in action. But the sight that made my blood freeze was the main door's scanner. It was displaying a perfect image of my own thumbprint, cycling it with retinal scans from at least 6 different people. "Ria," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "pull up Soren's access history. I want to know everywhere the system thinks he's been since he left for Europe." Her fingers flew across the tablet screen, and what she found confirmed my darkest suspicions. According to the facility's logs, Soren had accessed 17 different high-security areas in the past 12 hours. The timestamps showed him moving through the facility at superhuman speed, accessing labs on opposite ends of the building within minutes of each other. "This is impossible," Ria whispered, but her voice carried a new edge of fear. "The system is generating false logs, but they're so detailed, so precise. It's not just copying biometric data, it's creating complete activity profiles." A new alarm joined the cacophony echoing through the facility. This one I recognized with certainty, the Level 3 containment warning. Something in our most secure research area had been compromised. My radio crackled with increased static, the electronic interference getting worse. "Sir, this is Rodriguez at the main entrance. We've got multiple personnel trying to leave the building, but their badges are showing security violations. The system's flagging them as carrying restricted materials, but they're not carrying anything visible. It's like it won't let anyone leave." "Hold your position," I ordered, though my throat was getting dry from the stress. I was beginning to understand that the exit scanners might not obey our commands anymore. "Don't let anyone through until we figure out what's happening." That's when I noticed Ria had stopped walking. She was staring at something on her tablet, her face drained of all color. "What is it?" "The overnight maintenance logs," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone accessed the central biometric server room at 0200 hours. But look at the signature." She turned the tablet toward me, and I felt the floor seem to shift under my feet. The access record showed Talia's biometric profile, thumbprint, retinal scan, even her gait analysis from the corridor sensors. All perfect matches, all logged with timestamp precision. Talia Morrison, former IT security specialist, fired 6 months ago for questioning the ethics of our biometric data collection protocols. She'd argued that our system was too invasive, too prone to abuse. I dismissed her concerns as paranoia. "She doesn't work here anymore," I said, but the words felt hollow. Her access was revoked. Her biometric profiles were purged from the system. Not purged, Ria said, scrolling through more data. Look at this. Her profiles are still in the system, marked as Archived Employee Deep Storage Backup. But someone reactivated them at 0147 hours. The same time your profile accessed level 3. The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture I didn't want to see. Talia had always been brilliant with our security systems. She'd helped design half the protocols we used. If anyone could manipulate the biometric database from the outside, it would be her. But why would she want to create chaos? Unless, pull up the research project files that were accessed during the night, I ordered. I want to know what someone was trying to reach. Ria's fingers worked frantically across her tablet. Multiple level 3 files were opened using various biometric signatures. Project Chimera, Project Mirror. Oh God, Quinlan. Someone accessed the complete genetic database. Every employee, every researcher, everyone who's ever worked here. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Our biometric system didn't just store thumbprints and retinal scans. It contained complete genetic profiles of every person who'd ever worked at Meridian Research. DNA samples, biological markers, even detailed medical histories. If someone copied that database, I began. They could generate fake biometric matches for anyone, Ria finished. Perfect false positives that would fool our scanners. That's why the system thinks dead employees are still accessing the building. That's why your signature showed up in places you've never been. Another alarm pierced the air, this one from the executive level, its higher pitch cutting through the background noise. Then another from the radiological materials vault, deeper and more ominous. The chaos was spreading systematically, jumping from system to system like a virus designed to target our most sensitive areas. Sir, Martinez's voice cut through the electronic cacophony, his radio transmission crackling with interference. The food service worker who accessed the weapons wing, security cameras show her leaving the building through the north exit. But the scanners logged her departure as carrying biohazardous materials. Materials that weren't there when she went in, but somehow the sensors detected something. I felt a cold certainty settle in my chest. This wasn't random system failure. This was surgical. Someone was using our own security infrastructure to cover their tracks while they systematically looted our most sensitive research. Ria, can you track who's been accessing the stolen files? I'm trying, but... She paused, staring at her screen. Quinlan, there's someone in the building right now with Talia's biometric signature. According to the logs, she badged in through the maintenance entrance 20 minutes ago. That's impossible. She's blacklisted from the facility. The scanners don't care about blacklists anymore. They're just matching biometric profiles to database records, and her records are showing as active and authorized. I made another decision that would haunt me. Instead of immediately calling for backup from external security, I chose to handle this internally. I was still thinking like this was a containable problem, still believing I could protect the facility's secrets while solving the crisis. We're going to find her, I told Ria. If Talia's really in the building, she's going to explain what she's done to our systems. But as we headed toward the maintenance level, passing scanner after scanner showing impossible biometric combinations, I could feel my shirt sticking to my back with sweat. The facility felt different now, hostile, unpredictable, as if the building itself had turned against us, using our own identities as weapons. Each step echoed differently in the corridors, the sounds seeming to bounce off walls that no longer felt familiar or safe. Behind us, the containment alarms continued to wail in overlapping cycles, and somewhere in the depths of Level 3, research that could reshape the world was falling into hands we couldn't identify or trust. The air itself seemed heavier, tinged with the metallic taste of fear and the ozone smell of overheating electronics. The morning shift was in full swing now, but instead of the usual ordered routine, chaos reigned. People wandered through areas they shouldn't access, their confused voices echoing in corridors where they didn't belong. while others found themselves locked out of their own offices by systems that no longer recognized their authority. The biometric system that was supposed to protect us had become our enemy, and I was beginning to realize that lockdown might not keep the danger contained. It might have trapped us inside with something far worse than equipment failure. The maintenance level had always been the facility's forgotten arteries, a maze of service tunnels and equipment rooms where the building's vital systems hummed in mechanical rhythm. Now, descending into those familiar depths felt like entering enemy territory. The air was thick with the smell of overheating electronics and that metallic taste that comes with massive electrical discharge. I led Ria through the narrow corridor toward the central server room, our footsteps echoing differently than they should. The overhead lights flickered in sequence, not random electrical failure, but a pattern, as if something was systematically testing each circuit. Behind us, the facility's alarm symphony continued, but down here the sound was muffled, creating an almost submarine-like atmosphere of contained crisis. "The server room should be just ahead," Ria whispered, clutching her tablet against her chest. Her breathing had become shallow and rapid, the kind of hyperventilation that comes with prolonged stress. According to the logs, Talia's biometric signature was last detected near the primary data center. That's when I saw her. Talia Morrison stood in the doorway of server room C, exactly where the security log said she would be. But something was wrong with the picture. She looked older, more worn than I remembered from 6 months ago. Her hair, previously auburn and professionally styled, now hung limp and streaked with premature gray. Dark circles under her eyes suggested weeks of sleepless nights, and her hands shook with what looked like caffeine withdrawal or worse. "Hello, Quinlan," she said, her voice carrying a hollow quality that made me instinctively reach for the emergency radio on my belt. "I wondered when you'd figure out where to look." "Talia." I kept my voice steady, professional, but every instinct screamed danger. "You're not authorized to be in this facility. Your access was revoked 6 months ago." She laughed, but there was no humor in it, just a bitter sound that echoed off the concrete walls. "Authorization? Do you know what I've learned about authorization since you fired me? Since you dismissed my concerns as paranoia?" She gestured toward the server room behind her, where I could see cables pulled from their housing, diagnostic equipment scattered across workbenches, and multiple computer screens displaying code that scrolled too fast to read. "What have you done to our systems?" Ria demanded, stepping forward despite my cautioning hand on her arm. "I haven't done anything to your systems," Talia replied, and for the first time I heard genuine fear in her voice. "That's the problem. Someone else has been using the backdoor I created." The words hit me like a physical blow. Backdoor. Talia's shoulders sagged as if she'd been carrying a tremendous weight. 6 months ago, when I tried to warn you about the security vulnerabilities in our biometric system, you wouldn't listen. You said the system was perfect, impenetrable. So I proved you wrong. She moved aside, gesturing toward the server room. Inside, I could see the heart of our facility's security infrastructure, rows of servers, their status lights blinking in patterns that suggested intense processing activity. But what caught my attention was the additional equipment that shouldn't have been there. Unmarked black boxes with cables snaking into our primary systems, and laptops displaying network traffic that looked like data hemorrhaging from our databases. I created a backdoor to demonstrate the system's vulnerability, Talia continued, her voice growing stronger as if confession was giving her energy back. "I plan to present my findings at the next security review, show you exactly how someone could manipulate biometric records, create false positives, even generate phantom employees that the system would recognize as legitimate." "But you never presented anything," I said, though even as I spoke, I was beginning to understand the horrible truth. Because 2 weeks before I was scheduled to present, I discovered someone else was using my backdoor. Someone who knew it existed, someone who'd been watching my work. Her hands were trembling more visibly now, and she wiped them against her jacket repeatedly. I tried to close it, tried to alert security through proper channels, but we fired you for insubordination," I finished, the memory coming back with sickening clarity. She'd been trying to schedule emergency meetings, sending cryptic emails about security breaches that made no sense at the time. We'd interpreted her urgency as instability. Ria stepped closer to the server room entrance, her tablet raised to scan the additional equipment. These black boxes, they're not in our inventory. Someone installed parallel processing units to intercept and modify our biometric data in real time. Exactly, Talia said. Whoever's behind this isn't just manipulating the system, they're using it as a Trojan horse. Every time someone scans their biometric, the system records their authentic signature, but it also creates modified versions and stores them in a shadow database. I felt my throat constricting as the implications became clear. How long has this been running? Based on the installation dates I can find? At least 4 months, maybe longer. Talia's voice broke slightly. Every employee, every researcher, every security officer who's used a scanner during that time, their biometric data has been compromised and weaponized. The tactical radio on my belt crackled with increasing static. Sir, this is Rodriguez at the main entrance. We've got a situation. Multiple personnel are leaving the building, but the exit scanners are logging them as different people. I watched Dr. Peterson leave, but the scanner recorded it as someone named Marcus Webb from Biotech Division. Webb, I'd never heard that name before, but according to the scanner logs, Marcus Webb had accessed 17 different high-security areas in the past hour using a combination of biometric signatures from current employees. It's not random, I realized aloud. The system isn't malfunctioning, it's being controlled. Someone is using our own biometric data to create phantom employees, then using those phantom signatures to access restricted areas. While the real employees are being logged as different people entirely, Ria added, her face pale as she understood the scope of the deception. Perfect cover for industrial espionage or worse. Talia nodded grimly. I've been trying to track the data flow for weeks. The stolen biometric signatures are being transmitted outside the facility in real time. Someone is building a complete database of our personnel's biological markers. Who? I demanded. Who has this capability? I don't know. Her voice carried the frustration of someone who'd been fighting an invisible enemy. But I know they have inside help. The backdoor I created required administrative access to implement, and someone activated it using administrative privileges I never had. A new alarm joined the chaos echoing from above, the executive level, its distinctive high pitch cutting through the background noise. Then another from the radiological vault, deeper and more ominous. They're accelerating the operation, Talia said, checking something on a laptop screen I couldn't see clearly. Whoever's behind this knows we're getting close to shutting them down. I made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. Can you stop it? Maybe, but I need administrative access to the core system, and... She hesitated, looking between Ria and me with the expression of someone about to reveal something worse. There's something else. The biometric data they're stealing isn't just being copied. It's being modified and reinserted into our system. The scanners aren't just recording phantom employees. They're forgetting real ones. The implications of that hit me like ice water in my veins. Meaning that employees who've worked here for years are being gradually erased from the system, Ria said, her technical mind grasping the horror faster than mine. Their access is being transferred to phantom identities, while their real biometric signatures are being marked as unauthorized. How long before the system forgets all of us? I asked. Talia's silence was answer enough. Above us, the facility's alarm systems continued their electronic symphony of failure, but now I understood we weren't fighting random system malfunctions. We were fighting a sophisticated attack that was systematically stealing our identities while erasing our ability to stop it. And somewhere in the building, protected by our own compromised security systems, whoever was orchestrating this theft was using our biometric signatures like master keys to access research that could reshape the world. The question was, how many phantom employees were already walking through our halls, invisible to human eyes but perfectly visible to scanners that no longer recognized the difference between reality and carefully crafted lies. My radio crackled again, heavy with static. "Sir, we need you back on level 3 immediately. Dr. Soren's biometric signature just accessed the genetic research vault, but... Sir, Dr. Soren is still at his conference in Berlin. I just confirmed it with his hotel." I looked at Talia, seeing my own growing horror reflected in her exhausted features. Soren's biometric signature was being used to access our most sensitive research, but the Real Soren was 3,000 miles away. "We're going to stop this," I told her, though my voice sounded less confident than I wanted. "But I need to know, can we trust you?" She met my eyes directly for the first time since we'd found her. "Quinlan, I created this vulnerability to protect the facility. Someone else turned it into a weapon. If we don't stop them soon, they won't just steal our research. They'll steal our identities so completely that the system won't recognize any of us as authorized to be here." The weight of that settled on my shoulders like a physical burden. We weren't just fighting to save classified research anymore. We were fighting to save ourselves from being erased from existence by our own security systems. And time was running out faster than any of us had realized. The Central Command Center had always been our facility's nerve system, a sterile room of monitors and control panels where every door, every scanner, every access point could be tracked in real time. Now, staring at the wall of displays showing our security network's complete breakdown, it felt more like watching our own execution. I stood beside Soren as he frantically typed commands into the main terminal, his fingers moving with the desperate precision of someone trying to perform surgery while the patient bled out. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the room's aggressive air conditioning, and I could hear his breathing becoming more labored with each failed override attempt. "The system's not responding to administrative commands," he muttered, pulling up screen after screen of error messages. "It's like the biometric database has developed its own immune system. Every time I try to purge the phantom signatures, it treats my access as a threat." Talia hunched over her laptop at a nearby workstation, cables snaking from her machine into our network infrastructure. Dark circles under her eyes had deepened in the past hour, and her hands shook slightly as she navigated through lines of code I couldn't begin to understand. "The data hemorrhaging is accelerating," she reported, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Whoever's controlling this is pulling biometric records faster than we can track them. They've already copied signatures for 87% of our personnel." On the main display, I watched our facility transform into something unrecognizable. The security cameras showed corridors that appeared normal, personnel moving through hallways, entering offices, conducting what looked like routine business. But the access logs told a different story entirely. Dr. Martinez, head of our genetics division, showed as present in 3 different locations simultaneously according to the scanners. Her real biometric signature was accessing the tissue sample vault while phantom versions of her identity were logged in the cafeteria and the parking garage. Meanwhile, the security system had no record of her actual physical presence anywhere in the building. "Sir," Ria's voice crackled through the radio, tight with panic. "I'm at server room C with the IT team. The parallel processing units Talia found. They're not just intercepting our data. They're actively rewriting our employee database." I keyed the radio. "Explain." "The system is creating detailed personnel files for phantom employees that never existed. Marcus Webb from Biotech Division now has a complete work history, security clearance records, even emergency contact information. The database believes he's been employed here for 3 years." Soren looked up from his terminal, his face pale. "That's impossible. Our system has multiple redundancy checks to prevent fraudulent entries." "Not anymore," Talia said without looking away from her screen. "The backdoor I created wasn't just an access vulnerability. It was a pathway into the system's validation protocols. Someone's been using it to teach our security network to accept lies as truth." The facility-wide announcement system crackled to life, but instead of the expected evacuation orders, we heard something that made my blood freeze. "Attention all personnel. This is Dr. Soren Kellner, Chief Systems Architect. Due to a critical security breach, all current employee biometric signatures are being temporarily suspended for verification. Please report to your department heads for manual identity confirmation. I stared at Soren, who was standing right beside me, his mouth agape in horror. I didn't make that announcement, he whispered. Voice synthesis, Talia said grimly. They've moved beyond biometric theft. They're now using our own security infrastructure to coordinate whatever they're really after. The tactical radio erupted with confused chatter from security teams throughout the building. Personnel were reporting to department heads who couldn't verify their identities because the system no longer recognized their legitimate biometric signatures. Meanwhile, phantom employees continued accessing restricted areas with perfect authentication. How many people are still trapped in secured areas? I asked. Ria's voice came back strained. 17 personnel in the radiological vault, 12 in genetics, and at least 23 scattered across other high-security zones. The doors won't respond to their biometric signatures anymore. The system thinks they're intruders. I felt the familiar weight of command decisions, but now it carried the additional burden of impossible choices. Our own security protocols were turning against us, and every minute we delayed meant more personnel trapped behind doors that no longer recognized them as authorized. Soren, can you implement emergency manual overrides? He shook his head, his professional composure finally cracking. The manual override system requires biometric confirmation from 2 senior administrators, but the system no longer recognizes either of us as legitimate employees. What about the emergency key? Missing. Someone removed it from the secure cabinet 3 hours ago. According to the logs, you took it. He looked at me with the expression of someone watching reality dissolve. But you've been with me the entire time. The horrible symmetry of our trap became clear. Whoever orchestrated this hadn't just stolen our biometric data. They'd used it to systematically lock us out of our own emergency procedures. Every failsafe had been anticipated and neutralized. Talia, I said, making a decision that felt like grasping at smoke. Your back door? Can you use it to reverse what's been done? She finally looked up from her laptop, and I saw something in her expression that was worse than fear. It was the look of someone who'd calculated odds and found them hopeless. I can try to restore the legitimate biometric signatures, she said slowly. But doing so will require shutting down the entire security network for at least 15 minutes. Every door, every access point, every containment protocol will go offline. And if we don't, then in approximately 40 minutes, the system will complete its purge of legitimate employee records. Everyone currently in the building will be classified as an unauthorized intruder, and the facility will initiate complete lockdown. No one gets in. No one gets out, including us. Soren slumped against his workstation as the implications hit him. My system, he whispered. 20 years of work, and they've turned it into a weapon against the people it was supposed to protect. The wall of monitors showed our deteriorating situation in real time. Personnel were gathering in common areas, unable to access their own workspaces. Security doors throughout the facility showed red warning lights as legitimate employees were denied access to areas they'd worked in for years. And somewhere in the chaos, phantom employees with stolen biometric signatures moved freely through our most sensitive research areas. There's something else, Talia added, her voice barely audible. The data they're stealing isn't just being copied to external systems. It's being used to create what look like legitimate transfer authorizations. Research materials, genetic samples, classified data. Everything they take will appear to have been legitimately checked out by employees who don't exist. My radio crackled with increasing desperation from security teams throughout the building. Sir, the situation in the genetics division is critical. Dr. Martinez and her team have been locked in the tissue sample vault for over an hour. Environmental controls are malfunctioning, and the temperature is rising past safe levels. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of every decision I'd made that led to this moment. When I opened them, Talia was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. If I shut down the security network to restore our biometric signatures, she said quietly, whoever's behind this will have 15 minutes of unrestricted access to everything. They could take research that took decades to develop. And if you don't, then in 40 minutes, we'll all be prisoners in our own facility, and they'll have unlimited time to take everything anyway. The choice crystallized with brutal clarity. Save the people trapped throughout the building and risk losing everything we'd worked to protect, or preserve the research and watch our colleagues die in rooms that no longer recognize them as human. I thought about Dr. Martinez and her team, locked in a vault where the environmental controls were failing. I thought about the 23 other personnel scattered in secured areas, trapped by systems that had forgotten they existed. Do it, I said. Shut down the security network and restore our signatures. Soren looked at me with something between admiration and horror. You realize what this means? 15 minutes of complete vulnerability. They could steal research that could reshape entire industries. Then we use those 15 minutes to find them, I replied, checking my sidearm and radio. Talia, how long before you can begin the restoration? I need 5 minutes to prepare the override sequence. Ria, get all available security teams to converge on the most sensitive research areas. The moment that network goes down, we flood those areas with personnel. Understood. I looked at the wall of monitors showing our facility under siege by its own security systems. In 5 minutes, we would deliberately blind ourselves to save people who might already be dead. We would open every door to intruders who had already proven they could outmaneuver our best defenses. But as I watched another red warning light appear on the display, another employee denied access to their own workplace, I knew we had no choice. The system that was supposed to protect us had learned to see us as the enemy. Now our only option was to make ourselves as vulnerable as possible and hope we could survive what we discovered in the darkness. Begin the sequence, I told Talia. The countdown to our blindness had begun. The red emergency lighting cast everything in hellish shadows as Talia's fingers flew across her keyboard, preparing the override sequence that would either save us or doom us all. 2 minutes had become 90 seconds, then 60, and with each passing second, I felt the weight of every life trapped behind doors that no longer recognized them. Status report on trapped personnel, I demanded into my radio. Ria's voice crackled back, strained with exhaustion and fear. Dr. Martinez and her team in the tissue vault environmental systems are failing faster. Internal temperature now at 96 degrees and climbing. They have maybe 15 minutes before heat stroke becomes critical. I closed my eyes briefly, calculating odds that kept getting worse. 15 minutes before we lost people to our own malfunctioning systems. 3 minutes of complete vulnerability once Talia executed the override. The math was simple and brutal. Genetics division secure areas? I asked. 12 personnel locked in various labs. Some are in rooms with hazardous materials that require proper ventilation protocols. The air filtration isn't responding correctly to occupancy sensors that don't recognize them anymore. Soren looked up from his terminal where he'd been monitoring system diagnostics, his face gray with professional horror. The cascade failures are accelerating. It's not just access control anymore. The facility's entire integrated network is beginning to reject legitimate users. Life support, fire suppression, even basic lighting systems. Through the observation windows, I could see the main corridor where employees had gathered after being locked out of their own workspaces. Some sat on the floor in exhausted defeat. Others paced anxiously, checking their phones for messages that couldn't get through our compromised communication systems. A security guard repeatedly pressed his palm against a scanner, his badge swaying with each futile attempt. 60 seconds until override sequence is ready, Talia announced, not looking away from her screen. Sweat dripped from her forehead onto her keyboard. But you need to understand what happens when I execute this. The tone in her voice made my stomach clench. Tell me, the backdoor I created wasn't just a simple access vulnerability. When I shut down the security network to restore our biometric signatures, it's going to create a massive data dump. Every access attempt, every failed authentication, Every movement through the facility over the past 6 hours. All of it will be transmitted through my backdoor to whoever's been exploiting this. How massive? Soren demanded. Complete facility blueprints, personnel records, research project summaries, security protocols. Everything our system has recorded while trying to figure out what was happening. Her voice became barely audible. They'll know not just what they've stolen, but everything about how we operate. The implications hit like a physical blow. To save the people trapped now, we would have to give our attackers a complete roadmap to destroy us later. There's more, Talia continued. The restore process requires me to grant temporary administrative access to the phantom signatures the system has created. For exactly 3 minutes during the restoration, the fake employees will have the highest security clearance in the facility. 3 minutes of what level of access? I asked, though I already knew the answer would be devastating. Everything. Research databases, financial records, personnel files, security footage, communication logs. She finally looked at me, and I saw the guilt eating her alive. I created a backdoor, but someone turned it into a highway. My radio erupted with increasingly desperate reports. Security teams couldn't access areas they needed to patrol. Maintenance personnel were locked out of utility rooms where critical systems were beginning to malfunction. The facility's own immune system had become an autoimmune disease, attacking the very people it was designed to protect. Sir, Ria's voice was tight with panic. Temperature in the tissue vault just hit 98 degrees. Dr. Martinez is reporting that one of her team members has collapsed. I stared at the monitors showing our security network's complete breakdown. Red warnings flashed across every screen: access denied, authentication failed, unknown personnel detected. In the genetics division camera feeds, I could see people pressing their faces against observation windows, trying to signal for help from rooms that had become prisons. 30 seconds, Talia announced. Soren moved beside me, his voice low and urgent. Quinlan, if we do this, if we give them 3 minutes of total access, they won't just steal our current research. They'll have the infrastructure information to come back and take whatever we develop in the future. And if we don't, then we lose the people trapped right now, but we might be able to contain the damage. Preserve what we can for the long term. The choice crystallized with brutal clarity. Save the people dying in our malfunctioning facility and guarantee that everything we'd built could be stolen or destroyed. Or let them die to preserve the research that had cost us decades to develop. I thought about Dr. Martinez, who had worked here for 8 years and missed her daughter's birthday last month because she was perfecting a treatment protocol. I thought about the maintenance workers locked in utility rooms where chemical systems were cycling incorrectly. I thought about every person who came to work this morning trusting that our security systems would protect them. 10 seconds, Talia said. Execute the override, I told her. Sir, Soren's voice cracked. You're sacrificing everything we've worked for. No, I replied, watching the monitor showing Dr. Martinez supporting her collapsed colleague. I'm sacrificing everything we've built for everyone we've built it for. Talia's finger hovered over the enter key. Once I do this, there's no taking it back. 3 minutes of total vulnerability, complete data exposure, and no guarantee that the restore will even work properly. Do it, she pressed enter. Every screen in the command center went black simultaneously. The constant hum of processors and cooling systems died into silence, so complete it felt like the facility holding its breath. Emergency lighting flickered on throughout the building, casting everything in that hellish red glow. Then the doors began opening. I could hear them throughout the facility, the electronic clicks and mechanical whirs of dozens of security doors unlocking simultaneously. In the genetics division, Dr. Martinez and her team stumbled out of the tissue vault, gasping in the cooler corridor air. Personnel emerged from locked offices, utility rooms, and secure areas, blinking in confusion at their sudden freedom. But somewhere in the darkness, phantom employees were also moving freely through our most sensitive areas with the highest security clearance our system could grant. How long? I asked Talia, 2 minutes and 53 seconds until the restore completes. 2 minutes and 53 seconds of complete vulnerability. I keyed my radio. All security teams, this is Quinlan. The network is down for emergency restoration. Every door in the facility is unlocked. I need eyes on all critical research areas immediately. The response was immediate chaos. Security teams reporting movement in areas that should have been empty. Researchers discovering that their labs had been accessed during the lockdown. Equipment missing from areas that had shown no signs of unauthorized entry on our compromised monitoring systems. Movement in the biotech wing, came a report. Unknown personnel with facility badges, but facial recognition doesn't match our database. Genetic storage room has been accessed. Several tissue samples are missing from secure refrigeration units. Server room B shows signs of data extraction equipment. Cables and hardware we don't recognize. Each report drove home the magnitude of what we'd lost in our desperate gamble to save lives. Our attackers hadn't just been stealing data, they'd been physically present in our facility, using the chaos of the malfunctioning system to move freely and take whatever they wanted. 90 seconds remaining, Talia announced. But I'm detecting massive data transmission through the back door. They're downloading everything they can while they still have administrative access. Can you stop it? If I interrupt the process now, the restore won't complete. We'll be permanently locked out of our own system. 89 seconds of watching everything we built being systematically stolen. 88 seconds of knowing that saving our people meant sacrificing our purpose. 87 seconds of hoping that we'd made the right impossible choice. The seconds crawled by with agonizing precision. Through the security feeds, I watched our attackers moving with practiced efficiency through areas they shouldn't even know existed. They knew exactly where to go, exactly what to take. My backdoor revelation to Talia had given them the perfect cover story, but they'd been planning this operation long before today's chaos. 30 seconds, Talia called out. Sir, Ria's voice came through the radio, stronger now. All personnel have been evacuated from dangerous areas. Medical team is treating heat exhaustion cases, but everyone's alive. 20 seconds. 15. 10. Restoration complete, Talia said finally. The facility's lights flickered back to normal. Monitors throughout the command center began displaying familiar security interfaces instead of error messages. The constant background hum of our network infrastructure returned. But we all knew that everything had changed. Our attackers now possessed not just our research data, but complete knowledge of our facility, our procedures, and our vulnerabilities. They'd had 3 minutes of unrestricted access to systems that contained decades of work. Status report, I said into the radio. All trapped personnel have been evacuated safely, Ria responded. Dr. Martinez and her team are receiving medical evaluation for heat exhaustion, but they're stable. No casualties. A small victory in the midst of catastrophic loss. Preliminary damage assessment, Soren added grimly, reading from his restored terminal. Research data from 17 different projects has been accessed and copied. Financial records, personnel files, and facility schematics have been completely compromised. Conservative estimate. They've stolen 15 years of research and development. I looked at Talia, who was staring at her screen with the expression of someone watching the consequences of their choices play out in real time. The phantom signatures are gone, she reported quietly. But so is my backdoor. They closed it behind themselves when they finished. Can they get back in? Not through that vulnerability, but with everything they've stolen. She gestured helplessly at her laptop. They know us better than we know ourselves now. They'll find other ways in. The magnitude of our situation settled over the command center like a suffocating blanket. We'd saved every person trapped by our malfunctioning systems, but in doing so, we'd handed our attackers everything they needed to destroy us completely. Sir, the radio crackled with a new voice, Dr. Martinez. Weak but alive. I wanted to thank you for getting us out of there. We wouldn't have lasted much longer. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the choice we'd made. 23 people were alive because we'd sacrificed everything else. Glad you're safe, Doctor, I replied. Soren approached me, his face haggard but resolute. The board will want answers. They'll want to know how we let this happen, why we chose to save lives over preserving our research. Let them ask, I said, looking around the command center at my colleagues. Exhausted, frightened, but alive. We made the only choice we could live with. Talia closed her laptop and stood slowly. I'll submit my resignation in the morning, and a full confession about the backdoor I created. No, I said firmly. We're going to need everyone if we're going to rebuild from this. Your mistake helped cause this, but your knowledge also helped us save lives. She looked at me with something that might have been gratitude or might have been disbelief. After what I cost us? After what we all learned about what really matters? As the emergency lighting finally switched back to normal fluorescence, I realized we'd won something important, even in our devastating loss. Every person who'd been trapped by our own security systems had walked out alive. Every colleague who'd trusted us to protect them was safe. The research could be reconstructed. The security systems could be rebuilt. The damage to our reputation might heal with time, but the people we'd saved, they were irreplaceable. Even if it meant we might spend years rebuilding what we'd lost in 3 minutes, we'd made the right choice. The only choice that let us look at ourselves in the mirror tomorrow morning. The facility hummed quietly around us, its systems restored but forever changed. We'd learned the hard way that the most sophisticated security in the world meant nothing if it turned against the very people it was designed to protect. And sometimes, the only way to win is to lose everything except what matters most.